So today I'd like to discuss a variation of Hodge structure on special manifold. So this will be 6 parts. So polarized variation of Hodge structure on special manifold. And more precisely, so I would like to discuss the following result. So we will see that in some sense it's basically due to, let's say, Griffiths. I mean, all the tools were there, but maybe not the question. And so let S be a compact complex manifold. And so if one assume that if S is either Brody hyperbolic or weakly special, okay, so this includes in particular special. This is a bit more general. Then any complex local system on S underlying a Z variation of Hodge structure, so Z polarized variation of Hodge structure, so the kind of object I introduced yesterday. So just an abstract one, maybe not coming from geometry. So the claim is that such a local system has necessarily finite monodromy. Okay, so in particular, if you take any irreducible local system which come from geometry, so any irreducible element in this category, it has a finite monodromy. So in fact, it does not follow completely from what I explained, because in the definition I gave of local system of geometric origin, I said this is so an irreducible local system of geometric origin. It should be, in fact, an irreducible factor of push forward of some algebraic map, but I ask it only on a dense open subset. So from the definition I gave, what is clear is that such an irreducible element will underlie a variation of our structure, but a priori only on an open subset. Then, in fact, it's true that the variation extends. So if I have time, I will explain why. But so we need this additional fact. And on the other hand, let me just note that the theorem, so this result, is predicted by Campanas abelianity conjecture. Once we know Deligne semi-simplicity theorem. In view of Deligne semi-simplicity theorem. So here also it's not 100% true, because Deligne theorem applied just for families that are coming from geometry. And in this statement, I don't ask anything. It's about any abstract variation of our structure. But in fact, Deligne result was generalized to the abstract situation by Griffiths. when the base is compact, and also further work of Schmidt on non-compact base. So the conjecture of Frédéric is that if you have a special manifold, then the fundamental group should be virtually abelian. Okay, so in particular, so here there is also, yes, if I put this is predicted, okay, special. This should be equivalent to this one too, and so the fundamental group should be virtually abelian. So in particular, the monodromy should be also virtually abelian. And so if you look at its algebraic monodromy group, it will, if you go to some metal cover, it will split. Okay, and cannot be semi-simple. The group won't be semi-simple. Okay, it will be reductive, but not semi-simple. This is why I really need the strong form of the linear result. Okay, and so my goal today will be to sketch the proof of this result. But so for this, I need to speak about period domains. So period domains, they are the parameter spaces. Informally, they are the parameter spaces for polarized Hodge structure. Okay, kind of moduli spaces for them. So okay, so I fix an integer. I fix a Z module of finite rank. I fix also the minus n, this is the integer I have fixed, symmetric bilinear form. So on HD. Sorry? So a posteriori, yes, it should be non-degenerate. It's not. What I will define will be empty if it's degenerate. Yeah. So I could add it, and I will fix also the Hodge number. So collection of numbers indexed by P and Q, and I want moreover that HPQ is non-negative. I want the Hodge symmetry. And I want that if I do the sum of the HPQ, then I should find the dimension, I mean the rank, the dimension of the complexified vector space. Okay, and then the question is, I want to look at all possible filtration on this, which give rise to a Hodge structure on H polarized by Q. Okay, so D is the set of all decomposition of the complexification of H. So such that we have the Hodge symmetry. So it's really a Hodge structure. I want that, so it is a good dimension. So dimension of HPQ is HPQ. And I want that it's polarized by Q. Okay, so for the moment, it's just a set that I want to study. And clearly, I can, because to any Hodge decomposition, I can associate the Hodge filtration, and the Hodge filtration completely characterize the Hodge decomposition. I can see this as a subset of a bigger one, which is a set of all Hodge filtration. So filtration on HC. So such that for every P. So I want a compatibility with Q. So QFP is orthogonal to Qn minus P plus 1. And I want also to fix the dimension of the FP. Okay, so this is the second set, and as I said, to go from here to here is just to associate to such a decomposition the associated Hodge filtration, okay, given by the similar formula. Okay, but so why do we are really interested in this one? But this one first is better because it's clearly a closed subset of a No, there is no bar. No. So I could put a bar, but I don't want to put a bar because a bar is not algebraic. And I want here that there are, here if you see there are only algebraic conditions, and here there are non-algebraic conditions because there is a bar, this one, and also in the definition of polarized by Q, so there were two parts. So there were the part that this decomposition is orthogonal for H, and you can check that this becomes the same as this one. And there was another part which is the H should be a non-positive definite. And this is a non-algebraic condition. Okay. But if first I look at this one, it's clearly inside a product of Grassmannians. Okay, and it's even closed. Okay, you just associate to a point here the collection of the FP. All the other conditions, this condition is closed. Okay, so it will be a closed analytic subset here. We will see later that it is in fact smooth. Okay, but first it's a closed analytic subset. From what to what? From D to DH? Because I have more conditions. So D, so I have one first condition, which is this one. But the more important condition is on the polarization. You have the fact that the associated Hermitian form is positive definite. And in fact, so it's really, so here, because it's a closed subset here, it has a natural topology. And this will be an open subset in this one for the Hausdorff topology, not for the Zariski topology, because yes, basically you have to verify that this form is a positive definite. It's an open condition. Maybe I can write it so it's open, but for the Hausdorff topology, Euclidean topology. Okay, so let's. Yeah, so that it's to see that it's an injection, yeah, just because HPQ is FP intersection FQ bar. Okay, so if you know FP and FQ, you're done. So maybe let me look at the easiest example. So we take for H Z2. For Q, we take the usual symplectic form. Okay, so this will be the cohomology of an elliptic curve. And I want that H10 and H01 equal 1. And so in this case, it's an easy exercise. You can check that DH is just P1. You just need to give a line inside the complexification, inside C2. And D is the unit disk embedded. Okay, so part, so it's open, but also you see that it's not a complementary of a point. It's not algebraic, the embedding. Okay. So let's define G to be the automorphism group of the situation. So automorphism of H that preserve Q. Okay, so it's an algebraic group, and it defines, in fact, over Z. I mean, so group scheme, if you want, or at least define over Q. It's an algebraic group defined over Q. And it's not very difficult to prove the following, is that, so clearly, you have an action, well, let me write it. So it acts transitively on DH. And what is the action? So it's an action by holomorphism. And the action is, so an element in DH is just a collection of subspace, so it's a filtration. And I just define like this. I apply G to every element of the filtration. Okay, so we have an action of G on DH. So you need to verify that when you define like this, all the conditions are preserved, but it's pretty clear because of this. Now what I claim is that this action is transitive. Okay, so there is something to check. I won't do it, but it's not difficult. Okay, so in particular, DH is smooth. Okay, so a priori it was a projective variety, I mean a closed subset of some Grassmannians. But in fact, we have a transitive action of an algebraic group, so it has to be smooth. Yeah, question? In the definition, dimension of FP is equal to the sum of the HRS for R at least P. Okay, so DH is smooth. I say so D inside it, DH is open for the Hausdorff topology. And so in particular, it's an open in a complex manifold, so it's itself a complex manifold. Therefore, okay, so if you try to, I mean, this is not clear a priori. The way to put a complex structure is to look at it as an open subset. I mean, there are other ways, but I guess this is the easiest way. And so another lemma. So first, so GC acts on DH. Now G of R acts on DH, but in fact it preserves D. And moreover, this action is also transitive. Okay. So the fact that it acts is also clear because so I'm looking at the R point. We'll say that this kind of thing will be preserved. Now you need to work a bit more to show transitivity, but it's not a big deal. And second fact, so you can look at the stabilizer of a point. so in D. And so it is a compact subgroup of G of R. And so in 2 words, why is it so? Just because if you preserve everything like this and you are defined over R, so you also preserve the conjugation, and so you need to preserve not only the polarization, but the associated Hermitian form, which is positive definite. So you will be a subgroup of the unitary group for this positive definite Hermitian form, so you need to be compact. Okay. But an important point is that in general, it's not maximal compact. Okay, so for those who knows, maximal compact would say that D would be a bounded symmetric domain. So this is so this is an example. You can realize, in some sense, bounded symmetric domain has at least subspace of this kind of thing, but they are much more general. Okay, so now I'd like to describe the tangent bundle of this complex manifold. So for this, so I define G to be the Lie algebra of G, so of GC. Okay, so it's a complex Lie algebra, and explicitly, it is exactly the endomorphism of HC that preserve, Q, but in the additive sense. And so it's a sub-Lie algebra of the endomorphism of HC. Okay, and now I want to see these two complex vector space. I want to see them as a constant vector bundle on DCH. Okay, so the holomorphic vector bundle on DCH, so as follows. H. Okay, so maybe first I look at this one. Okay, so I just put at every point the vector space. And I claim that it's equipped with a tautological filtration. And by holomorphic subbundles. Okay, so tautological. What is this filtration? So an element of DCH is a filtration on HC. So to any point, I associate the corresponding filtration. And I claim that when you vary in DCH, this is really a filtration by holomorphic subbundle. But this comes from the complex structure I put on DCH because I saw it as a subspace of the Grassmannian. Okay, so this is tautological. And now, because I have this filtration on HC, I have an induced filtration here, and by restriction, an induced filtration here. So inducing filtration still by holomorphic subbundle on so first this one, and then on this one. Okay, so I have this 3 holomorphic vector bundle on DCH, and they all comes with some holomorphic filtration by subbundle, holomorphic subbundle. And moreover, so if you restrict this filtration to D. So it's still, everything is holomorphic, but now this filtration defines the Hodge structure polarized by Q. Okay, so let's first look at this. So I'm just saying that on DCH, by definition, you have this family of filtration, and if you restrict to D, then by the very definition also of D, it gives you a family of Hodge structure. On the other hand, it's not a variation of Hodge structure, because in the definition of variation of Hodge structure, there was this Griffith transversality. And here, in general, it's not fulfilled. Okay? And from this one, just by functorial construction, you get the same kind of structure on this one and on this one. Yes. So the definition of D is for on H. Then, by functoriality, you will get on the two other. So on the endomorphism, it's completely clear because the category of Hodge structure are internal home. And here you need to check some compatibilities, right? You need to, but it's easy. But yeah, there is nothing difficult here. Okay, so important remark, I will write it because it's the source of many complications. So it defines a family of Hodge structure on D, but be careful that in general, this is not, in general a variation of Hodge structure. So a Z polarized variation of Hodge structure on D. Okay. Okay, so now we can compute the tangent bundle. So first, so we have an action of GC on DCH. And so it induces the following diagram. We have a surjective, so here I should see it, sorry, this is not G, but G tensor, the constant vector bundle associated to G. And it has a surjective map onto the tangent bundle, just given by the action. But there is a kernel, and the kernel, if you think of what is the associated filtration here, it's just the element of the F0. Okay, F0 as the element that respects the filtration. So it factorizes through G over F0 of G. And now it's an isomorphism. Okay, and always it's tensor O. Okay, you shouldn't think you do the construction at every point and everything very well holomorphically. Okay, so from this I can make two definitions. So first, I define the horizontal. Yep.
This is the constant, right? We are writing as a tensor product with the vectors.
With the structural shift.
But tangent bundle is not a constant vector one. I mean, it's not a trivial one, right?
No, it's a trivial bundle. No, yes, you're right, sorry. You're completely right. So G, this one is constant, but of course the quotient is not. Thank you. Okay, the filtration vary with the point. Yeah, thank you very much. It was stupid. Okay. So now I can define the horizontal subbundle. So I will write it like this. So it's on DCH, and I put a H for horizontal, and it's a sub-bundle of the tangent bundle. So this is, so in fact, everything is GC equivariant in what I explained. So this is a GC equivariant subvector bundle corresponding to, so it's, I will look at F minus 1 over F0 inside of G over F0. Okay, so recall it's a decreasing filtration. So I just take the first non-trivial step. And as you see by definition, it's really a holomorphic subvector bundle, and it's GC equivariant because it comes from all of these are GC equivariant. So this is the first definition. And the second one is that from this we get a canonically defined metric on D. So the Griffith-Schmidt metric, so on D, not on DCH, is a GR equivariant Hermitian metric on DCH, so on TD, I say DCH, so it's D, and it's on the tangent bundle of D, induced by the Hodge metric on G. Yes. So let me explain this. So if I restrict this picture to D, G is a family of Hodge structure, of polarized Hodge structure, because now I'm not only on DCH, but on the smaller set D. So at every point, we get a polarization, and so in particular, we get what I call the Hodge metric. Okay, this is the positive definite.
By metric, you have a metric on HC.
Yes.
So you have an end of HC of a metric. You are just restricting.
Exactly. Yeah, this is the same. Okay, so this is the metric coming from HC through end of HC and restricted to G. So you have a positive definite Hermitian metric. By the very definition, everything is invariant over the group, the real group. And now I'm just projecting this metric here. And so this metric has a very nice curvature properties. And this is at the heart of the result I stated at the beginning. Okay, so I'm almost done, but I need also to explain what is a period map. It will be more quick. So on D, no. But if you restrict to the horizontal direction that I will, the horizontal direction are the one given by the horizontal subbundle, yes. So if you restrict to any complex manifold which is tangent to the horizontal direction, it's scalar. But so that's the source of the whole difficulty. All you can hope for becomes true in the horizontal direction.
Are you saying that see, you want to have a Hermitian metric, you have the Taylor form, right? It will not be closed. Taylor condition is closed.
Yeah.
You are saying if you take the D of that form, it is not 0 on D.
Yeah.
But on the horizontal, it is 0.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, what you can see, yeah, exactly. So there is another, so one way to, I think, yeah. You could also define a pseudometric, so a metric with signature, which is scalar, in the sense that associate, when you have a, Yeah. There is a pseudo-Keller metric, which is positive definite in the horizontal direction. This would be another way to do it, but this is not this one. It's close to this one, but yeah. I guess it's easier for, Okay, so now period map. So period map is an equivalent way to characterize a variation of Roche structure by looking, if we have a variation of Roche structure, we will get a map to a parameter space of Roche structure, and vice versa. So let me just state it. So if you take L and F and Q, a Z polarized variation of Roche structure on any complex manifold, maybe not compact, S. So what you can do, so first choose a base point. Then you will get, of course, the monodromy representation associated to L. And because it has to preserve Q, it will be a representation with value in G. And in fact, in the Z point of G, because everything is defined over G, over Z. Okay? So this is the first thing. And now you can pull back everything to the universal cover of S at S naught. And when you do that, the local system becomes constant. Okay? And so you can identify all the fiber with the fiber at S naught. And so you can, so each point comes with a Hodge structure and you can compare it with the one at S naught. So from the variation of Hodge structure, you get a map 2D, okay, just by definition. So this map is has some properties. So this map is just to a point T. I associate the Hodge structure, the filtration at T. Okay, but sin, so it's inside L of T, but L of T is canonically identified with the point that I choose upon S tilde. Okay, so this map has some properties. So this map is holomorphic. Okay, so this is just a translation of the fact that the Hodge filtration is holomorphic. It is rho equivariant when we let G act on D. And so what is very important is that it is horizontal. So what does it mean? It means that if you, so P will be the period map. If you look at the image of the tangent bundle of S, it will arrive in the horizontal part of the tangent bundle of D. Okay, so P will be my period map. Okay, and of course here you have an action of GR, and so in particular of G of Z. This is why it makes sense to say that it's rho equivariant. Okay, so from any variation of Hodge structure, you can get, so this is the period map, pi. But also conversely, if you have a map which satisfies all of this, then you get a variation of Hodge structure. So yes, let me comment. Horizontality corresponds to Griffith's transversality. Okay, if you think of the way I define everything, this is just translation. Sorry? DS, yes, thank you. Okay, so it's local, so everything could be checked, in fact, downstairs, but as I wrote, it's indeed S tilde. And so conversely, any such map, so a holomorphic map to a period domain satisfying this, defines a Z polarized variation of Hodge structure. Okay? With the fixed, of some type. I have fixed the type of Q and the Hodge numbers. Okay, so now I have everything I want to give an idea of the proof. Okay, so back to the proof of the theorem. So first there will be a small reduction lemma. So it's we'll use the following lemma of Minkowski, which says that if you take a matrix, so any element which is of finite order any element of GLN of Z which is of finite order and also equals to the identity modulo some prime number, so modulo a prime P which is at least 3, then in fact it is trivial. Okay, so I won't prove it, but it's a small lemma. But so why is it interesting? It's interesting because so the monodromy will take place in JLN of Z, and using this lemma, we'll take a finite étale cover such that I don't have any more finite order element in the image of the monodromy. Okay, so let me write it. So therefore, replacing my S from the beginning by a finite étale cover, one can assume that so gamma, which is by definition the image of the monodromy, rho, is torsion free. Okay, so, and by going to an étale cover, I don't change the property of being weakly special or Brody special. Okay, so I can really reduce to this case. And so now I am in the following situation. So I have S tilde going to D so over S, but I can take the quotient of D by the image of the monodromy. Okay, it's a discrete group acting on D. And because it's torsion free, in fact, this is a manifold. Complex manifold. And so I can take S is proper, so it's a proper map of analytic space. I can take its image that I will call T. Okay, so T is a compact, complex space, analytic space, inside this one. And now the thing is that if you take a desingularization of T, okay, so now it's a compact complex manifold, this map is still horizontal. And you can lift, because I took torsion free, you can lift it. So this map defines really a variation of Roche structure on T prime. Okay, and generically, the one on S comes from the one on T prime. What I need to do, in fact, to prove the theorem is to prove that T is a point. Okay, but so here is the claim. So the theorem follows from two sub-results from the two next results. So why two? Because in fact I stated two theorems depending of if I take the assumption Brody special or weakly special. So first result, so due to Griffiths and Schmidt, say the following. So any polarized variation of Roche structure on C is trivial. And an equivalent formulation equivalently, any holomorphic horizontal map from C to a period domain is constant. So this is the first result, and I claim that this one implies the first part of the result. So let me prove it. So assume that S is a Brody special. So by definition, it means that there is a Zariski-dense entire curve. Now I can just look at the image in T. So the image of C in T is still Zariski-dense. Okay. On the other hand, so T now is inside. I mean, I could lift everything to D if you want, but it's inside D. By Griffith-Schmidt, you know that it has to be a point. So a point is Zariski-dense in T, so T is a point. Okay. So it's really a direct application of this one. And now the second part is more involved. So this is the following result. So if a compact complex manifold admits a Z polarized variation of Roth structure with a whose period map is generically immersive, then it is of general type. Okay? So if you have a variation of Roth structure with this maximality assumption, then you need to be of general type. So if you apply this to this diagram, it says that T prime is of general type. Okay, and so S cannot be weakly special unless T prime is a point. Okay, so the second part of the theorem is a consequence of this one. Sorry?
What is the idea of the...
So I will explain Griffith-Schmidt, and the second one maybe not, but yeah, let me explain a bit this. Okay, so let's discuss the proof of theorem 1, meaning Griffith-Schmidt. So first I need to recall what is a Kobayashi metric. So Kobayashi defined on any complex analytic space and connected on any connected complex analytic space, an intrinsic pseudo-distance okay, and I recall briefly the definition. So you will use the distance in the disk. So you take 2 points in my complex analytic space X, P and Q, and I want to define the pseudo-distance. Pseudo-distance, it means that it's a distance, but maybe degenerate. So 2 points can be at 0 distance, but not being the same. But it has all the other properties. And so the idea is just to look at all chains. So P will be here. Q is somewhere in some disk, unit disk. And I want to look at all chain of image of unit disk so that I can link P to D. like this. And so each time I can compute the distance here using the Poincaré metric. I add them, it gives me a number, and I will look at the nth of the number of all possibilities. Okay, so this is the distance that you can get using only the distance on the Poincaré disk. And one of the properties is that on the unit disk, it gives the Poincaré metric. And so now the point is that on so the Griffith-Schmidt metric, so it will be sketchy, but the Griffith-Schmidt metric has what is called negative holomorphic sectional curvature. In the horizontal direction. And moreover, it's really bounded away from zero, the negative constant. Okay, so I mean, here you need to do some computation, but this says that yeah, it's a computation of the curvature of this metric in the horizontal direction. There is a computation to be made, but now, once you have this kind of condition, so negative condition, you're in a good position to apply the so-called Schwarz lemma, so in the form given by Alfors. So here we need the generalization of the Schwarz peak Alfors lemma implies the following result. So which is due to Griffith-Schmidt. So which says that each time you have you take a horizontal map like this, I mean a period map. So here you can put the Griffith-Schmidt metric because it descends, it was G of R equivalent, so it descends here. Here you can put the Kobayashi metric, and so any period map decreases the distance up to some renormalization of the metric. Okay, so P, so here you put the Kobayashi equipped with the Kobayashi metric, pseudometric. Here you equipped with the Griffith-Schmidt metric. And so the claim is that P decreases the distance up to a normalization. Okay, and so now you get this theorem. Because it's not very hard to see that the Kobayashi pseudo distance on C is 0. I'll let this. So the theorem 1 follows since Kobayashi pseudo distance of C is 0. Okay, and Griffith-Schmidt is really a distance, not a pseudo distance. Okay, so more generally, this proof says that variation of hot structure on a variety for which the Kobayashi pseudometric is 0 has to be constant. So now what is the proof of the second theorem? So it's more involved, but I just give an idea. So okay, the idea is that because the map is generically immersive, so it was X. Let me call it S. So we have the period map. So we have pi, which is going from S to the quotient. And so in particular, so we'll get TS going to this. And by assumption, it's generically an injective map. So to simplify, let's say that it's really an immersive map. Then the metric, the Griffith-Schmidt metric here induces a metric here. And so in particular, you get, so Griffith-Schmidt metric induces a metric, Hermitian metric, so first on T of S, and so by functoriality, on the canonical bundle. And you can compute the curvature of this metric, and it is of a positive curvature here. So this metric. So it is negative on the tangent and positive on the canonical. Yeah, dualize. So this metric on omega S has positive curvature. Okay, so this is a computation. But now, so if the map is immersive everywhere, you can apply a Kodera embedding theorem. Okay, if you have a line bundle on a compact, complex manifold with a positive curvature metric, then it is ample. And so, because here I say only generically immersive, you need some kind of singular version of this one. But you can do this. So this gives an idea of the proof of theorem 2, and I think I will stop here for today.